All right, welcome everyone. Hope you're having a good reInvent. Today I'm going to talk to you about Dell Technologies Cloud and how we can simplify your journey to the cloud. So I like to start off by talking about why you're trying to make this move in the first place, right? So digital transformation, it's a buzzword. I know a lot of people aren't very excited by that buzzword, but the reality is every single person I talk to, every single industry is going through digital transformation. And why are they doing this? It's because we're seeing that there's incredible value in going through this process. We heard yesterday in the keynote that there are digital disruptors and they're going through and they're reshaping every industry. And so as we digitize things, IDC is saying that 60% of the global GDP will be digitized by 2022. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone's going to go and become Netflix. What this means is that somewhere in the value chain, there is digital means. So that means your CRM, your ERP systems, your customer touch points. And if those are where the value is being derived, then your competitive advantages become software and data. And because that's happening across your business, you need to have coverage across your entire digital footprint. And that ultimately is driving customers to a hybrid cloud. So I like to talk to organizations about cloud and the promise of cloud and why they went down this path. So flexibility and scale, anyone who's been in the cloud understands, it's a great way to start small and immediately scale up and get to massive size really quickly. The ability to consume services and act quickly and really take chances at a small level using those OpEx models is a really great way to lower the barriers of entry to trying new things. And in the consumption needs here, the ability to move to an OpEx model from a CapEx model is something that we hear time and time again is really valuable for customers as they're trying to do more with less. But this isn't happening in a vacuum. And a couple of years ago, we would hear from people, the data centers are going away. And you fast forward and you hear at this show, there's a lot of interest in the data center still. And if there's a lot of interest in the data center, there's a lot of value in making sure that you can deliver a similar experience in both places. And that's really what we're trying to do with Dell Technologies Cloud. So what is Dell Technologies Cloud? Put simply, if I boil it down to the simplest of means, or the simplest of definitions, it's Dell EMC infrastructure plus VMware Cloud Foundation and then a partner cloud like AWS. And what's really great about this is you're creating a consistent experience in your data center and in the cloud. So I've talked to you a little bit about Dell EMC infrastructure. We have our Dell Technologies Cloud platforms. This is VMware Cloud Foundation running on top of VxRail. So it's a hyper-converged infrastructure in your data center. This is a great way to create a freeway to the cloud. Instead of having your typical 3-tier storage, compute, and network that's independent, you're putting it all in one hyper-converged infrastructure box. And what that's allowing you to do is inject the software-defined data center into your workloads, right? So you're virtualizing the network, the compute, and the storage on this. What's really good about this solution together is that we've worked really closely with VMware to make sure that there's full stack integration, that there's automated lifecycle management. And when I talk about automated lifecycle management, what's really interesting about that is let's say you have to patch the firmware for the storage, for the computer, and then you also have to go and patch the software as well. What we do is we're validating that deployment. We're making sure that the firmware and the software work together before we roll that patch out to you. And so that experience is so much better than a traditional data center experience because what you're going to get is you get one button to click and download. You get to make sure that that's a previously known good. So you don't have to spend all day testing and making sure that it's going to work for your applications. And then we provide a frictionless path to the cloud with AWS here. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we do that going forward here. We also have cloud validated designs. Now, the important thing here is we think that the HCI is the best experience for your workloads, but that's good for maybe 80, 90% of your workloads. There are other workloads that have underlying requirements of the infrastructure. Maybe it's very storage intensive. You need massive scale. Maybe it's that you need to bring in GPUs or something like that. But for whatever reason, what we're doing here is we're giving you choice. So you can bring more workloads to the cloud. And we're also really, we're making sure you have choice when it comes to your developer models, right? So we announced PKS support for VCF and the Dell Technologies Cloud at VMworld US earlier this year. What's really great about this is you have one platform that can deliver both virtualized and containers. And what's really good about that is containers can be hard to onboard across your business, and you might have existing applications that will take a long time to re-platform and move to the cloud. This allows you to move at your own speed. One platform that you can move forward with. So that means that you can get to the cloud faster because you can do a simple lift and shift migration and you get some of the benefits today from the cloud, or you can do a re-platform and get even more by going fully cloud native. And the fact that this is a joint work with Dell EMC, VMware, and Pivotal means that you have people who have spent years and years and years designing these types of solutions for enterprises at massive scale. So when we talk about connecting it to AWS, it's really important that you're able to get the same great experience you would get with a native AWS deployment, right? So in your data center, we have vCenter, and in the cloud, we have vCenter, right? So you can manage consistently across both of those. The policies that you put in place in your data center can become portable, and you can take those to the cloud as well. That's going to lower the amount of time that you're spending setting up new management policies, making sure that your security is in good shape. It's going to reduce the friction of moving to the cloud. And then you see on the right-hand side here that you're going to be able to also consume native AWS services. Right now, these are the services that are available plus a couple hundred more. And what that means is that those are all being done in the L2 area there. So you're not incurring egress fees to access those the services, right? And you heard Amazon say on stage that they're continuing to put more and more of these services into VMC on AWS. So as Amazon puts more of those services in, there's even more you can consume. But what this is doing for you is, if you've got a heavy data footprint in your data center, all of a sudden you're able to light up the cloud and you're able to move really rapidly to the cloud and still get the same great experience you would have if you were to spin up today in AWS and start that way. So the other thing about this is that I think that people have talked about bursting to the cloud. People have been talking about data portability across clouds for a while, but it hasn't really been a reality. It's been something that's really challenging. And there's still some things that make it challenging, like egress fees. But with this technology, you're really going to remove a lot of the friction associated with the migration, right? You're porting it across all the policies, and you're getting the ability to move quickly. So it's good for cloud migration if you want to move applications up there quickly. It's good for extending the data center footprint into the cloud, and also for disaster recovery scenarios. So when we talk about HCX, this is the underlying technology that makes it possible. And what it basically is doing is it's doing similar to vMotioning that you do in your data center, but now you're vMotioning across the network out, right? And you're extending this layer 2 network to VMC on AWS to make sure that it's secure as you're making that move. And you have the ability to upgrade the machines as you're going. So you don't have to worry about what version of vSphere you're on, right? In the process of the move, it'll do the upgrade, and that'll make it a lot easier for you. And finally, this is really important, is disruption of any kind is not acceptable in today's business. And so as you're making that shift, if you have to take down a service, that's going to be really challenging for most businesses. What you're doing here with this is you're moving and creating copies up into the cloud. Then you validate them. Then once everything's all up there and it's been validated, then you have the cutover. So then you're not seeing a huge disruption as you're moving to the cloud. And this is backing away from that HCX story, but talking about what we're doing with Dell Tech Cloud. What we're talking about here is the economics of cloud. So today, what you're faced with is you get this great experience up here, maybe, where you can get OpEx and you have a great developer experience. But then if you look at your data center, if you don't have that same great experience, that's going to create this need to shift that workload to the cloud, even if that workload is not a good candidate for cloud. So what we're doing now is with Dell Technologies On Demand, we're allowing you to get a subscription-based model in the data center, right? We're allowing you to get an OpEx model where you're paying for only what you consume and where you can over-provision and not have to pay for it until you're ready to grow. So that's a really key point of kind of normalizing the experience across the data center and the cloud so that then you can take a look at it and say, I need this workload up in the cloud because I need to consume Amazon's services, right? Or maybe I need to keep this workload here because of my compliance or regulatory requirements. And it's really tough to go through this move, right? It's something I hear time and time again from a lot of my customers. They want to figure out, how should I do this? How do I sell this up internally? How do I pick the right candidates to move? Because if you have any existing footprint in your data center today, it's a lot harder. It's very easy to be born in the cloud, right? It's very easy to start there from scratch. But what's really hard is when you have hundreds, if not thousands of applications that are in your data center. So what we can do and what we help our customers with is we sit down with them and we talk to stakeholders and we say, hey, what is the plan? What are you interested in? What's the paradigm? How much do you want to be in the cloud? How much do you want to be on-prem? We take a look at your applications. We take a look at your infrastructure. And then we make recommendations based off of your unique needs. And this is really something that we're trying to do for our customers is say, hey, look, whether it's our cloud or whether it's Amazon's, making sure that you get the best experience possible across both those environments and that they act the same is really important. And making sure that you have a path that's going to give you the right cloud strategy versus just a blind cloud-first mandate. So, what's the value of Dell Technologies Cloud? Why is it something that would be helpful for this? Well, one, increasing business agility. We had talked about this vMotion, this ability to migrate faster, right? That's going to save you time. That's going to get the workloads to the cloud much quicker. Accelerating time to market. Once you're up in the cloud, being able to provision quickly in this environment, being able to set up your policies using vCenter and SDDC Manager, that's going to lower the amount of the burden that gets passed on to developers. Your IT ops guys can help lighten the load for them. We talked a little bit about lowering migration costs. Some of the research we've seen is that you can go from 20 weeks down to 4 weeks with a solution like this for your workloads, which is very, very helpful. And finally, reducing business risk, right? If you're not ready for the cloud, or if you've not spent a substantial amount of time in the cloud, or if you have a workload that you're not sure how it's going to run in the cloud, this solution is going to make it easier for you to get to the cloud, test it out, see if it works. If not, pull it back. It's also going to be easier for you to take your policies that you've spent years and years and years crafting in your data center and extend them up into the cloud. So that's also a very good point there. So with that, thank you. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry.
For the upgrades for the managed ESXi hosts or the semi-managed ESXi hosts, are those hit lists, or you notify the customer if there's going to be obviously a change of firmware, how do you guys kind of...
Are you talking about the upgrades with HCX or the upgrades with VxRail and the...
I'm talking about like the ESXi hosts that are deployed in the cloud.
And you guys say you guys manage the firmware and the software, and before you push that to a host, how do you guys manage that coordination with the customer as far as like, hey, this host is getting upgraded? Is it hitless? Is it?
So I can't talk to the cloud portion of that because that would happen through VMC on AWS, which is a managed service that Amazon is doing. So I don't know how they're handling that part of it. In the VxRail portion of it, you get an update that shows up in vCenter, and you take a look at it, and it's got patch notes, and it tells you everything that's there, and then you can download it at your leisure.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah.